Welcome, everybody, to our next podcast. Today, we are going to tell you about the 5 practices for successful classroom observations. This is our theme lately, and we want to make sure that you have all the information and preparation you need to become excellent observers and teachers who are being observed. Right, Nipa?
Definitely, yes.
So, we are going to talk about 5 practices. And why is this conversation important? Because first, these practices will provide you a roadmap or a structure to make the observation process clear and successful. They'll provide clearly defined responsibilities for the teacher and observer. And finally, they'll establish a standard code of conduct for both the teacher and the observer so that excellence is the only way to work. So if you follow these 5 practices, you will create a good system, a good format that will be a sure success for both the observer and the teacher.
So we have 3 aspects of the observation process, and these aspects are what you should do before the session as a teacher and an observer, what you should do after the session, and the mindset which you should cultivate as a teacher and an observer. So let's first go through what a teacher should do before the observation starts. Number
Yes.
one thing which the teacher should do is we have to define our learning outcomes in advance. That is, if you really want to teach simple past tense to, an upper intermediate level or a lower intermediate level, depending upon your learning level of your learners, you'll have to define your learning outcomes in advance so that your lesson comes out totally glowingly successful. And second one is you have to inform your observer what kind of topic you are teaching and what will be your learning outcomes. Right, Tarana?
Yes. So we have listed these 5 practices for what you should do before the session in the order of importance. So please take a look at the list so that you see that we're just highlighting a few that we think are very crucial, and the rest are available to you in this video. If you have any questions, let us know. Right? I'll continue and say that if I were the observer, I would do the following before the session. Most importantly, I would respect the teacher's classroom space and ask where to be seated. Sometimes that is an issue. So please don't go and sit right in the first row. Please, the teacher's classroom is their environment, and be respectful. And it's best when you ask them where you should be seated. Also, it helps, among other things, for preparation, if you print and review the lesson plan if the teacher has shared it with you, and also definitely print out the observation form that we've shared with you in the past, and we're happy to share again. This is what you will need after the observation to really structure your feedback.
Right.
Nipa, let's move over to after the session.
Right. So, as a teacher, after the session, once you have finished your lesson, first thing you should do is schedule a feedback time to discuss your session in detail with your observer. This is very crucial for you to get a 360-degree view of your teaching practices. Another thing which you have to keep in mind is you have to implement whatever improvements or the changes which are suggested by your trainer or by your observer. That is very important. So always make notes while you are getting feedback. Right, Tarana?
Yes, and when you're the observer, one of the things I want to highlight in our list of 5 is to use the 3 categories of giving oral feedback. So you're going to give feedback in 2 methods. One is oral spoken feedback, and the other is the observation form, right? When you schedule time with the teacher to give feedback over a cup of tea, here is a format that we really love and find valuable that you can implement. I like to tell the teacher what to retain, what to relearn, and what to unlearn. For example, you can retain your lesson plan format if it's working for you, right? And if you see the teacher has implemented it successfully. Tell the teacher to retain it. Also tell her to retain how she uses the blackboard if she's done a good job and an effective job at organizing the material on the blackboard. Perhaps the teacher's eye contact was not effective and some students felt neglected in your observation. So tell the teacher to relearn that. Keep it precise and keep it really valuable when you give this feedback orally. And ultimately, you can ask the teacher to unlearn something from your point of view. This is constructive feedback. You can say, maybe you want to unlearn and relearn something that is not working. Like, for example, how the textbook was used during the classroom lesson session. Maybe the teacher needs to use a textbook more effectively. So these are three areas through which you can give a very edited, a very precise feedback session. And later on, fill out the observation form only after the session is over. Both feedback sessions, oral and written, happen after the lesson is done. Nipa,
Right.
over to you for the mindset.
Right. The mindset. One thing as teachers we have to remember is being observed is, of course, a little bit uncomfortable initially. So you have to be very well prepared. Preparation is the key. Be well prepared about the lesson you're going to teach and develop a calm and composed mindset. And don't try to overdo anything or overreact or overact in your classroom, or don't even try to underplay. Be your original self, be yourself. Treat it as an everyday lesson where you perform as a teacher and you should be good to go, right?
As an observer, what is the most important mindset you need is one of a deep listener and somebody who has unbiased and non-judgmental way of observing and listening. I think these are really hard to practice, and it's a process. So once you start becoming an observer, that itself is as important, that experience is as important as being the teacher who is being observed. So keep these two things in mind, and also use a very positive attitude and language, and be respectful when you're giving oral feedback as well as written feedback to an extent. So keep these things in mind, and you will be more successful in the way the observation process is beneficial for you as a teacher and as an observer. Preparation, actions, and mindset are the three most important things to keep in mind when you're in this process.
Right. And I would like to remind everyone here, Tarana, that practice observations are a blessing. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree, because when you practice and practice and practice, and for me, it's the best of three. If I've been observed 3 times as a practice, when the final time comes to be observed by a trainer, it'll feel like second nature. It will feel so natural.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you one question.
Okay.
What's the difference between a practice and a formal observation then, while we're talking about this?
More or less they are similar. However, the main difference is that as a teacher, if you get observed by your trainer, you'll get new perspective or a new insight into your teaching practices, which is invaluable, I think.
Yeah, I think colleagues give a lot of insights to each other, but an outsider, a trainer who is from the field but comes from a different exposure, can bring in some new insights. That's so true.
One who has had so many such sessions and who has observed so many sessions, for many teachers.
Yes.
These kind of people can really provide you with invaluable insights about how you teach and how well you can, teach.
Yeah, very true. So again, practice makes us perfect, Nipa.
Right. As a quotation goes, that knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice, and your skills will not get refined unless you really practice and get feedback on your teaching skills.
Yeah, and sometimes it's uncomfortable also to receive feedback, but I think the process of practicing it again makes us understand it a little better. So
Precise.
study this process well, everybody. Let us also be there for you if you have any questions. This process comes from our own experiences being teachers and being observers. So in the next session, what we decided while we were preparing this session for you, that we should do a role play of being an observer and a teacher and what a feedback session looks like.
Yeah,
And
sounds good to me.
right. So, Nipa, next time we're going to be in a role of a teacher and observer, and I am excited to share that experience with everybody.
Yeah,
Stay
but I'm
tuned.
scared, Tarana, if you're going to be the observer.
I'll be observing you. All right,
That's
let's
fine.
let's practice.
Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to. Okay, then. It is.
We'll do it. Stay
Yeah.
tuned, everybody, and keep sharing your comments. Thank you. Until next
Thanks.
time.
Yeah.